Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Back in the shop now again today. I've been doing a lot of winter preps, fall busy season work outside. Most of that's pretty much come to an end. So today I'm going to spend some time trying to figure out where that intermittent pop noise is coming from on 5J1113 when it's off of load. But first, very common question in the comment section. People that are familiar with the old cats know all about this, but for the ones that don't, they ask, what is this wet stacking that I keep talking about? That's that black, oozy, oily stuff that keeps coming out of the exhaust. How does the furnace always know to kick on when I'm... Anyway, that's this stuff right here. Yeah, very black, very sticky. And two things cause that. So on a brand new engine, fresh rebuild, if you don't have the rings fully seated yet, you get some blow-by happening, some oil consumption, some oil is getting past the rings and being circulated through the combustion chambers. It mixes maybe even with some unburned fuel and some carbon, and that's where you get this really sticky black stuff. So as you break the engine in, the rings will seat, that will clean up and go away. Another thing that can cause it is possibly excessive amounts of unburned fuel, which I'm thinking is going on with cylinder number 1, again mixed with carbon, usually leaves a bunch of black oily stuff like that. Aside from that, as these engines get completely worn out and the rings are not seating anymore, you will get a lot of this black wet stacking goo coming out because it's just starting to run very, very inefficiently. And now that we've got that furnace off in the background, sorry about that, another common question that I've seen come up that I want to address real quick before we proceed is a lot of people have asked with the hard starting that this seems to be exhibiting still, could there be something wrong in the fuel injection system that would be causing that? Although I'm leaning toward a fuel injection system problem right now for the cause of that pop, I don't really consider the hard starting that this is exhibiting to be out of the ordinary for, well, a brand new, not even broken yet, Cat D 3400 diesel engine. These were the smallest bore diesel engines they ever made at 3 3/4 of an inch. And there's a lot of iron surrounding those small pistons between the heavy block, the heavy liners, the heavy cylinder head that is acting like a heat sink and just drawing heat out of those combustion chambers. So, this is the early build design. We're not yet capturing any of the exhaust heat from the starting engine to surround the intake manifold to basically induce yet even more heat on top of the pistons. So it takes a lot of heat buildup in one of these before they're broken in to really get the diesel engine to light and take off. As well as after these D3400s become well worn out, they turn into hard cold starters all the time. So it's the fact that it's such a small piston, doesn't generate really as much heat comparatively to the mass of the engine as any of the other larger models. Yeah, hard starting is kind of a known thing with these when they're A, not yet broken in yet, or B, well past worn out. I suspect that the hard starting issue that this is exhibiting is going to go away after I get all the little bugs sorted out of it and we get it fully well broken in. So let's proceed. So everything I have observed up to this point leads me to suspect a possible fuel injection system issue on cylinder number 1, whether it be the injector or the barrel pump. Now, during the entire rebuild process, we rebuilt everything on this entire tractor except for the barrel pumps and the fuel injectors because they require specialized tooling that I do not have. We did pop test the injectors, and this was a new old stock batch that I had, and they all seemed to test rather well. That's not saying we don't have an issue like in a line or a pump, or everything is suspect at this point. All right, everything. But we're going to start with the least invasive tests and work inward. So the first thing I did was remove this return line that bridges the tops of all 4 fuel injectors. Now, when these style injectors operate, there's a certain amount of leakage internally that migrates up and out the top of them and then is plumbed to this line, and it jerks down into the atmosphere. So it should be minimal, but you're always going to get some internal leakage. The first thing we want to look at is how much fuel do we have up in the top. So number 4, really nothing, just a trace in there. Number 3, a little bit more, but pretty much still a trace. Number 2, just a trace, almost dry. But we go to number 1, that is just about full of diesel fuel up in the top of that injector. I don't know if you can see it better without the flashlight on it. There's a lot of fuel up in the top of that. So that tells me we do have more internal leakage on number 1 than the others. Doesn't necessarily condemn it yet, but we keep that in mind. Next, I want to pull all 4 injectors out, just do a visual inspection. So right now we're looking to see if any one of these has like traces of a lot of like oil or fuel on the bottoms of the injectors. And 4 is just dry black carbon, 3 is the same, 2 is the same, and 1 is the same. We'll check the pre-coms as long as we're at it. And 4 looks just like the injector. 3 looks just like the injector. 2 does as well. 1 does as well. And not a single one shows any more or less carbon or black soot than the others, so nothing obvious there. Now I'm going to try to do just a visual injector spray pattern check with the engine cranking. So I usually just put a stopper up in the top. Normally you can thread the banjo bolt back in there that holds the line down. I'd rather just put this plastic plug in there because it fits a little bit better. And they'll fit upside down in the pre-coms, and you can still connect all the fuel lines right up to them. So the plan here is we'll get the starting engine running. It's going to be way too loud for me to really say much while that is cackling away. But the first thing I am going to do is crank the diesel engine with the fuel set to the off position, and we are without getting in front of these. Okay, that's the big thing. Don't put your face right there. Don't put your hands in front of them, but from a safe distance, see if we have any kind of fuel that is going to be coming up and out of the nozzles with the fuel rack off. Okay, that's going to tell us maybe we have some dribbling or some leakage going on, or maybe a rack issue. If that all looks good, then again, from a safe distance, we'll just go and open up the fuel lever and then start checking the spray patterns. And we're just looking for just what's going to be just, you know, even cone-shaped spray, even height. It's going to make a heck of a mess. That's just what happens. But again, look for a fine spray, cone-shaped spray. See if any of them are lopsided, any bigger drops coming out. We just want to make sure everything looks uniform. And we shut down by running out of gas, so that's good. Had cardboard placed in as many different spots as possible. Try and keep diesel off of things. That was my heat shield to keep the starting engine exhaust from lighting the cardboard on fire. So, all right, with fuel off, I didn't see any dripping, any leaking out the nozzles. And when we opened the fuel rack up, visually anyhow, the spray pattern looked equal on all four, and we weren't left with any residual droplets, any diesel that had pooled in the ends of the nozzles. I don't know. I mean, that's as close as I can go to testing them until I put them on the pop tester again. But all four looked even. I mean, visual inspection, it passes. Well, I was really hoping I would have found something obvious with those injectors, but no. So what I did is I reinstalled all four of them, but I took number 1 and number 4 and flopped positions with them, basically swapped them around. So my thinking here is I was suspecting an issue on number 1 cylinder because we had a lot of that wet stacking coming out of the weep hole on the port for the manifold. I just want to see if the wet stacking follows the injector that used to be in number 1 and shows up on number 4. But in the meantime, another check that's rather minimally invasive is valve clearance on the diesel engines. So break into this and reinspect. First thing we do again is just another visual inspection, and plenty of oil up there. So nothing appears to be running dry. Check the cups in all the push rods. Plenty of oil in all of them, consistent all the way across. So oil supply is looking good. Valve springs next, and remember, these are brand new valves in brand new guides. These are used springs because I did not have new springs, but I tested everything that I had. This is all of the best of what I had for most consistent spring rate, for best condition, for coils that did not look worn. Remember, we run an inner spring and an outer spring. You're probably not, looking through the viewer on the camera, it's not really showing up, but I can see the inner spring coils inside on all of these, and they're all looking good. Nothing's broken. I don't see springs that are winding down around themselves. And well, just the ones that have, we got some free play there. That valve is smooth. That valve is smooth. 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 We're starting to get to some compressed ones now. I'll check all of them by hand. So far, everything I've checked by hand looks good. We'll roll the engine a bit. We'll check those last two. I do want to also verify my valve clearance. 10 thousandths hot for both intakes and exhaust. I believe I set these around 12 when they were cold. Let's try 10 blade. It's good. 11 blade is good. Try the 12. Nice drag right where I'd set it. We'll go straight to 12 on this other one. Nice drag. Let's roll around, check the others. All right, 1342 all the way across 12 thousandths cold, exactly where I had them. And the last thing I'll do is just work the compression release real quick. Watch the intake rockers for movement. All are good except for that, which is on the downstroke anyhow, so yeah, we wouldn't expect to see any movement there anyway. So didn't expect the compression release to be causing me any problems. It seems to have been working fine. So all right, I think I'm going to put the valve cover back on. We'll seal this top end back up. All right, engine sealed back up, and I really thought I would have found something with those injectors. I realized what I did is not a super scientific or calibrated test, but yeah, the issue is there's nobody even close around here that I can take any of this injection stuff to have them test it, assess it, you got to realize where I am, there's not much. Okay, if I want to drive 2 hours each way and drop it off and leave it for a month, maybe I might be able to get something looked at. But yeah, that's why I try and do a lot of the stuff myself and figure it out myself, because you don't get a lot of help. So that's just the nature of the area. I guess at this point in time, I'm willing to just run this thing again. We'll probably finish out the last hour of the engine break-in process. I might even hook onto an RD6 and start pulling it around. Just work this thing until its tongue hangs out. Maybe there's a chance it just isn't broken in enough yet. I don't know. This black stuff is coming from somewhere. And another idea, are we getting just enough leak by of some engine oil past some rings yet that it's enough to ignite just kind of an extra little fuel charge, give it a pop, or maybe hamper the fuel spray? I don't know. The engine oil level has not been dropping. The coolant level has been staying the same. Really no other problems at all. Just that mystery intermittent pop off of load and off of absolute low flat idle. Maybe we just need to run it in a little bit more. I don't know. Either way, I think I've answered enough questions that I had in my own mind about the fuel injection system. I didn't really see a smoking gun. And the fact that all 4 of those precoms were equally as sooty, equally as dry, was the big thing. I was expecting to find one that had a lot of like damp stuff in it, like from maybe a fuel drip or leak. Nothing. So the only other thing, well, we can go back to fuel delivery and fuel timing. Now, I believe it was Diesel Engine episode number 35, where I even went back and rewatched it, and I remember because I went through, I took the lifter yoke setting process to the extreme by even placing dial indicators on top of all 4 pistons, rolling them up to true top dead center on the indicator, verifying them with the timing mark and the bell housing, and then setting our, I believe it was 1.741 depth on all 4 lifter yokes. And then I would roll the engine through another cycle, bring it back to the same spot, and double check it to double verify. Go ahead, just pop the link. I can't ever remember what site it's on that just showed up. If you all want to go back and rewatch that episode, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm 99.5% sure my injection timing is good. The lifter yoke settings are good. There's always a chance there might still be a problem there, but from everything else that I've seen, I'm doubting it. I think we're just gonna, we're gonna go and just work the snot out of this thing one more time. I'll have to wait until Senior's got some time to ride along on another Caterpillar being towed, but we're just gonna, I just want to just beyond the shadow of a doubt have enough like actual working load hours on this thing to have broken it in and discount that as a possibility of the troubles we're having. So that's gonna do it for this episode. Really didn't find anything. I was actually kind of hoping I would have given me a direction to proceed, but sometimes you just you need to just follow the process and let things work themselves out. So I'll stay on it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tune in again.